Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. Assange on trial. George just came back from a 2-day, 3-day trip from London, where you participated in an event trying to create awareness about the most important trial in the world, and there isn't that much awareness. And I'm really glad you went there. George, can you give us your thoughts? What was going on there? Who was there? And how do you think the message was received?
Well, as you said, this event, Imperialism on Trial, and I think you attended one of their events earlier this year. It's organized by Greg Sharkey, and it always has very good lineup of speakers. I think Neil Clark, whom I think you know pretty well, and then you had Catherine Brown, who's the wife of our friend Alexander Mercouris. And then Filio Navarro, who had been at the Ecuador embassy during the time that some of the time that Assange was imprisoned there. So it was a good event, just as yours was, but unfortunately, of course, the audience felt frustrated because it's all in the hands of the courts. It's in the hands of lawyers. No one really has any faith in the UK court system. No one has any faith that the UK court system will decide the matter fairly and in accordance with domestic law and international law. People think that essentially, with some justification, that the UK courts will decide the matter in accordance with the political desires of the UK government, which, particularly now that it's out of the EU, is desperately clinging onto its American connection. And something like this, basically saying denying an extradition request in a high-profile case, would be horrific for the British government. You know, they know that they would really antagonize the Americans, that the British government would not want to happen.
I've come across the theory that, first of all, there was quite a long hiatus between the time that the trial was announced and now it's begun, and it could take quite a while. And then there's also the possibility of appeal, which, of course, he will still be under a maximum detention. The theory is that just to kind of run out the clock, and I hate to say it, but run out his health.
Yes, I think that's right. This could indeed go on for quite a long time. I mean, I would imagine that this judge, who is very hostile to Julian Assange, this Judge Barreza, will almost certainly rule in favor of the prosecution of the United States government. This will then be appealed to the High Court, and then whichever way the High Court goes, then either side, both the prosecution and the defense, could then appeal to the Supreme Court. So it doesn't matter if the High Court rules in favor of Julian. He still stays in prison because the prosecution would immediately lodge an appeal, and then he goes to the Supreme Court. So all this could go on for a very, very long time. And I think if the UK Supreme Court rules against Julian, then I think it's all over. As far as the UK part of the case is concerned, I think the extradition warrant will be served immediately, and all the talk about he'll appeal to the European Court of Human Rights just doesn't matter.
No, the plane will be fueled up. It'll be on the tarmac. Yeah. I mean, from some legal experts have explained to me that once he gets on that airplane, which I hate to say it, but we have to stay real here, that if he can survive this legal process in the UK, he will be put on that plane. And it's very likely, from what people have told me, that we may never really know what happens after that, because the trial could be held in secret. His lawyers wouldn't even be privy to the prosecution's evidence. It's very unlikely he would have a jury of his peers. I mean, who's his peer? Oh my God!
Exactly. That's what happened. I mean, it might take. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
But it may also be that if it is in public, I mean, he could put together a kind of a dream team of American First Amendment lawyers. I mean, Alan Dershowitz would certainly. I mean, Dershowitz is a big supporter of his. Dershowitz would obviously be kind of probably captain of the Assange defense team, and that would be formidable. They would present a formidable case. against the U.S. courts. And then again, whichever way the district court rules, then it goes up to the Circuit Court of Appeals, and then maybe even up to the U.S. Supreme Court. God knows how the U.S. Supreme Court will go. I mean, it's a long process.
I have doubts that there would ever be a dream team. I think that people are so cowed by this, and who's going to want to? First of all, it's not O.J. Simpson, okay? It's not a household word, a household person phenomenon. In some circles, I suppose Assange would be considered a celebrity. But I mean, when you have talking heads for years in the United States saying that Assange and Edward Snowden, we can throw in there, they should be assassinated, they should be hung, they should be killed, they should be droned. I just think that would be. There's not enough courage. When the political class cows people, there's no courage here. Talk about some of I remember the crowd that attended the event that I was at in London prior to the pandemic. Fiery, passionate, and what I really found really hopeful is that it was across political spectrum. I mean, there were conservatives there, there were populists, there were communists there. I mean, that was heartening to me, because we can disagree on so many things, and we do. But there are those of us that freedom of speech, we're really passionate about it, and that gave me hope that the whole idea of Julian Assange and the whole idea of WikiLeaks has efficacy and will continue, okay, and give us hope, because the powers that be, the last thing they want is freedom of speech.
Yes, that's right. The problem is, of course, and a number of the questioners asked, like, well, what can we as ordinary citizens, what can we do to help Julian? And you always want to say, well, get out in the street, demonstrate, do this, do that, but at the same time you feel like, it's very limited what you can do. I mean, you're up against very powerful institutions, the most powerful institutions in the world, the government of the United Kingdom, the government of the United States. They're not going to listen to activists in the street, screaming slogans. So it's great that you're enthusiastic, but ultimately, you have to be kind of realistic and think that it's very limited to what we can do. I mean, obviously, we should try to do whatever we can, publicize the case as much as possible, publicize the hypocrisy of the US and UK media as much as possible, how utterly dishonest they are, that agitating about what's going on in Belarus or in Hong Kong or in Tehran, but where journalists are threatened here, they're suddenly nowhere to be seen. Where's the New York Times, who's so terribly upset about what goes on in Orban's Hungary, but nothing at all about what's going on in here with the U.S. government. I mean, imagine this U.S. government spied on Julian's discussions with his lawyers, fundamental violation of lawyer-client privilege, spied on his consultations with his doctors, and has kept him essentially imprisoned in a high-security prison now for 18 months for a man who hasn't been convicted of anything.
Yeah, well, the only thing he really did was reveal war crimes. That's what he did. He revealed the guilt of governments and the people that are in association with and colluding with them here. I mean, you mentioned the New York Times, democracy dies in the dark. Yeah, I mean, really, it does, because the media is the darkness, okay? They are the darkness. His treatment, I mean, number one, over the years, we know Cablegate and all of the other revelations that WikiLeaks made public, because journalists won't do it. He did. Not only is there venom for him personally, but he obviously is being used to set an example for everyone else never to step out of line. That's the extra here. Is the you see what we're doing to him, and we can get away with it impunity. We can do it to you too. And so pay attention.
That's right. That's it. That's exactly right. So that the paradigm for journalism will be not WikiLeaks, but the paradigm will be the New York Times, which basically peddles gossip and malicious rumor mongering by deep state individuals with an agenda of their own, who speak off the record and anonymously. So the New York Times pervades their kind of conspiracy theories. That's the paradigm of journalism that we're going to get a lot of, and not the one that gives us a real document, as WikiLeaks does.
And it's all circular, isn't it? Okay, it's all circular. You know, these operatives, they leak to a journalist, and then a journalist turns around and asks them about it, and there's a confirmation, and they do it around and around and around. Okay, and that is not informing. One thing I would say before we finish up is that this whole treatment of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks is eroding whatever little trust there is in the media. So this comes back at them. It comes back at them, is that the trust in the media is lower than Congress. That tells you everything.
Yes. It is quite stunning, because when you think of let's say 50 years ago, I mean, yes, the New York Times has always had its problems. Remembering the days of Walter Duranty, or Herbert Matthews, and so on. But it was an impressive newspaper. I mean, you think that this was a pretty solid newspaper. You still held it in quite high esteem. It's a rag now. I mean, does anyone respect the New York Times? Does anyone really say New York Times is a good newspaper? I mean, you pick it up, it's just all Trump bashing all the time. There's no difference now between news and editorializing. I mean, every news story just reads like an editorial. Yeah. And its coverage of the rest of the world is so narrow-minded, so propagandistic. I mean, who takes it seriously anymore? So it's like,
that's why people come in and see us here at the Gaggle. Okay, thanks, George, for the update on the Assange trial. We here at the Gaggle will be keeping a close eye on it. As I always say, like, share, and subscribe. A lot more ahead.